Good morning students, this is your teacher Neelam Melawat and today we'll start with a new chapter, that is chapter number 8, the cell, the unit of life, the fundamental unit of life. Dear students, I hope you're familiar with this topic because you have completed this topic in class 9th also. But here in class 11th, we will be taking a detailed components of we'll be studying about the details of cell, the different types as well. Okay. So now in this particular lecture, we'll be talking about what is a cell. Okay, what is a cell? The cell theory, the overview of the cells. Then we'll be classifying the cells as the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cells. And we will talk about regarding the various cell organelles that are present in these cells. Okay. I hope this is clear to everyone. Okay. Now let's start with today's topic. Dear students, when we talk about a living and a non-living thing, okay, when we differentiate, we always find that living things, they have a structure that is called a cell. Okay, and this cell is unique to living beings. And that is the one why we are able to distinguish between living and non-living thing components. So cell basically is referred to as the fundamental, structural and functional unit of all living organisms. All organisms, they are made up of cells. And on the basis of number of cells, we can classify the organisms as unicellular. Right? We can classify them as unicellular or we can classify them as multicellular. Unicellular means the organisms that are made up of single cell, while the organisms that contain many cells, they are referred to as multicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms, the organisms that are made up of one cell. Okay, they have one cell. While multicellular, they are made up of many cells. So on the basis, we can categorize the organisms into two different categories, that is unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. Now if we talk about a cell, dear students, cell was initially discovered by Robert Hooke. Okay, he was the one who discovered the cells and he discovered a dead cell. And how this discovery happened? He basically examined a piece of cork, that is bark. Okay, bark. He basically examined a piece of bark or a cork under his primitive microscope and he observed this structure. And he said that this has a honeycomb-like structure. Okay, this has a honeycomb-like structure. There are little compartments and later on these little compartments, they were named as cells. Okay, so the initial discovery of a cell has been done by Robert Hooke. Then there is a scientist which is named as Anton von Leeuwenhoek. He was the one who first discovered a living cell. Okay, he was the one who first saw and he described a living cell. Now in later times, Robert Brown discovered the nucleus. I hope you've heard this name also. Robert Brown. Okay, Robert Brown. He was the one who discovered nucleus in a cell. He talked about the nucleus. He discovered the nucleus, that a cell contains a structure inside it and that is referred to as the nucleus. So this was the discoveries that were going on. But with time, the compound microscope, the electron microscope, they were discovered, they were invented, and the invention of these microscopes, it revealed the detailed structure of the cell. As you can see in the structure, this is your electron microscope, and you can easily find them in. I have seen them in two universities like Delhi University and Chandigarh University. So the well advanced, you can say electron microscopes, they are available in these universities. And likewise, you can see this is your simple microscope that we use, a compound microscope. Okay, I hope you have seen in your lab. Okay. Now coming to the next concept that is referred to as the cell theory. Students, there were basically two scientists M.J. Schleiden, that is Matthias Schleiden. He was a German botanist. And Theodore Schachmann, he was the one who was working with animals. So Schleiden basically observed the plant cells, and these all, you can say, he observed the plants and he found that all plants are basically composed of different kind of cells which form the tissues of the plant. Okay. Then there is Theodore Schachmann. In 1839, he reported, he was basically working with animal cells, and he reported that cells have a thin outer layer. Okay, the cells, they have a thin outer layer, and that thin outer layer is named as plasma membrane. And likewise, he also concluded, when he observed the plant cells as well, that the plant cells, they also have an additional wall which is present, that is referred to as cell wall, and this is a unique feature of the plant cells. So plant cells basically, they contain, what he meant was that plant cells basically contain the cell walls, and this is a unique character of a plant cell. Animal cells do not have the cell wall. Now both of these two scientists, that is Schleiden and Schachmann, they formulated the cell theory. However, their theory did not explain how new cells are formed. But later, in 1855, there was a scientist named Rudolf Virchow. He explained that cells divide and new cells always form from pre-existing cells. So he basically answered the question which was left unanswered by the cell theory formulators. And he explained that cells will divide and they will form the new cells. And this is called as ominous cellula e cellula. Okay. And he modified the hypothesis of Schleiden and Schachmann, and he gave a final shape to the cell theory. Now we come to the cell theory, dear students, which was existing at that point of time. First of all, the first point that the cell theory has explained, all living organisms, they are made up of cells and product of cells. Secondly, all cells arise from the pre-existing cells. Okay. No cell can occur without the existing of other cells. So all living organisms, they are made up of cells, and second, all cells arise from the pre-existing cell. This was the, you can say, final shape of the cell theory. Now coming to the overview of a cell. Now basically, if we talk about, I hope you have seen the onion peel. Have you seen onion peel, dear students? Have you made a slide of it? Very good. So in class 9th, I suppose that you have observed, you have prepared slides of onion peel and even the human cheek cells, and you must have observed them under the microscope. Okay. So onion cell basically is a typical plant cell. Okay. While your human cheek cell is an animal cell. Okay. So we can easily compare. When we talk about these two cells, we come to the conclusion that all these cells basically have certain common structures which are present in them. First of all, a living cell contains a cell membrane. Okay. The first thing which is there, it is a cell membrane. As you can see here, the cells are bounded by a cell membrane. So whether it is a plant cell or an animal cell, it is bounded by a plasma membrane or a cell membrane. Okay. Second is, it will contain the cytoplasm, which contain your various cell organelles. As you can see here, this is the other part which you can say liquid component, which is considered to be the cytoplasm, and it contains the various cell organelles. Okay. And in the center, as you can see, there is a nucleus. So three structures are common in all cells: the cell membrane, the cytoplasm which containing the cell organelles, and the third is a nucleus. Okay, everyone. Now cytoplasm, basically students, we can define it as cytoplasm. It is a semi-fluid matrix. It is semi-fluid where all the cellular activities and chemical reactions will occur. So whatever things are happening inside a cell, everything is happening inside the cytoplasm itself. and this keeps the cell in a living state. और यही आपके cells को जो है living state में रखती है. Second, you come to the ribosomes basically. As I told you that there are various organelles which are present in these cells, like your endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, mitochondria, microbodies, vacuoles. Okay, so all these structures, they are present inside a cell. Other than this, there are ribosomes. Ribosomes basically, dear students, they are non-membrane bound organelles. Okay, when ribosomes, they are present, as you can see, this is the structure of the ribosome. They are non-membrane bound, means they are not covered by a membrane. Okay, and they are not only found in the cytoplasm, but they are also present in, okay, they are not only found in the cytoplasm, they are also present in the chloroplast, mitochondria, and on the endoplasmic reticulum, that is your rough endoplasmic reticulum. See, dear students, cells, if you look around yourself, you will find that every organism has a different function to perform. So likewise, because an organism has a different function to perform, it has different cells. So we can say cells basically differ in shape, size, and their activities. Okay, like we talk about the mycoplasma is having basically a size of 0.3 micrometers in length, and it is considered, they are considered to be the smallest cells. While the bacteria, they are approximately 3 to 5 micrometers. And the largest isolated cell that we are able to isolate, we are able to obtain, is an egg of ostrich, as you can see here. The longest cells in the human body, they are the nerve cells, and the largest cell in the human body, they are the human RBCs, and they are approximately 7 micrometers in diameter. Okay, so we see, as you can see in the picture also, this is your ostrich egg, this is your nerve cell, the bacteria's RBC, eukaryotic cell, then this is a bacterial cell, PPLO, and viruses. So from this slide we conclude that cells have different shape and size. They may be disc-like, they may be polygonal, they may be thread-like, they can have even irregular shape also. And the shape of the cell is related with their function that they perform. Okay, the shape is related with their function that they perform. Now, based on the functions, as I told you, you can have different types of cells. Cells may be like the disc-like, polygonal, columnar, cuboid, thread-like. They may also have irregular shapes. Now you can look into the picture also. See, these are the all animal cells that we have. Like as you can see the nerve cell. Then there is a muscle cells. You can see they are cylindrical, they are elongated. Bone cells, they contain your osteocytes. This is your smooth muscles, cardiac muscles, your gland cells, RBC, WBC, lymphocytes. Okay, the sperm, as you can see, the egg also. So all of them, they have a different shape. Okay, different shape. Shape of the cells vary with the function they perform. This is regarding the animal cells that I was talking about. Now in case of plant cells also, I am taking one example here. As you can see, simple tissues I am talking about. Simple tissues, they can be of 3 types: parenchyma tissue, collenchyma tissue, sclerenchyma tissue. And if you look at the structure, just let's compare the plant tissues here. See, this is a parenchyma. Parenchyma, the cells are more or less round in shape. Okay, they are more or less round in shape. Intercellular space is present, right? Intercellular space is present. Cell wall is made up of cellulose. And this parenchyma, when it is present in the leaves, this parenchyma will contain the chlorophyll and it will help in photosynthesis. And when it is present in the aquatic plants, then it will help in floating. So in that case, we call it as arenchyma. So we can categorize into 2 types: chlorenchyma, okay, chlorenchyma, and second is second is arenchyma. Okay, we can call it as arenchyma also. So chlorenchyma and the arenchyma. Chlorenchyma, it will help in photosynthesis. Arenchyma, it will help the plants present in water in floating. Coming to the collenchyma tissue. See students, in case of collenchyma, the cells, the cell wall is more thicker at the corners. Okay, the cell wall is more thicker at the corners, and this collenchyma tissue, it makes the plant flexible. It provides flexibility to the plant. So you can bend the branches of a tree without breaking it. Now coming to the sclerenchyma tissue. Again, the cell walls, they are uniformly thick. If you look at the cells, the cell wall is uniformly thick and it is made up of pectin. And these cells, they are dead cells. While your parenchyma cells, sclerenchyma cells, they are made up of living cells. But these cells, that is your sclerenchyma cells, they are made up of dead cells. Okay. So whether it is a plant, whether it is an animal, all have different types of cells, and the shape of the cell is related with the function it performs. Okay. It always is related with the function it performs. Now coming to the, as I told you, we can classify the cells into two basic types, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Now let's talk about the prokaryotic cells. Let's understand the meaning of this word. Pro means primitive. Okay everyone, pro means primitive. Karyotic means nucleus. So the organisms that have primitive nucleus, they are referred to as prokaryotic cells. Okay. The cells that have primitive nucleus, they will be considered as prokaryotic cells. Okay. Now let's study in detail. See, prokaryotic, dear students, they have no membrane bound nucleus. Okay, as the name suggests, I told you prokaryotic means primitive nucleus. So their nucleus is not well developed. They are not covered by the membrane. Cell organelles, they are absent. And they have a single you can say chromosome. Okay, they contain a single chromosome, and the size of these cells is small. Okay, for example, the bacterias, blue-green algae, mycoplasma, PPLO, that is pleuropneumonia-like organisms. Okay, and as I told you, these cells, they are generally smaller and they multiply very fast. They have a higher rate of multiplication and they greatly vary in their shape and size. Now, dear students, bacteria can be categorized into 4 different types depending upon the shape. Okay, depending upon the shape. Like we have 4 types of bacteria. First is bacillus. These are rod-like. As you can see in the picture, just let me highlight this picture. You can see in the picture also. Bacillus, they are rod-like. Then is coccus, they are spherical. As you can see here, they are spherical. Vibrio, they are comma-shaped, and spirillum is they are spiral in structure. Okay, they are spiral in shape. So depending upon the shape, the bacteria can be classified into 4 basic types. Okay, depending upon the shapes that they have. Okay, everyone? Okay. Now let's come to the various components or the cell organelles which are present in the prokaryotic cells. So prokaryotic cell basically contains a cell envelope. Second, they have a mesosome and the chromatophores, a nucleoid. Nucleoid means a primitive nucleus. Okay. Flagella, pili and fimbriae, ribosomes and inclusion bodies. And this is exactly how does a prokaryotic cell look like. So ये आपका prokaryotic cell है, right? As you can see the nucleus. It is not covered by any membrane. It is just floating in the cytoplasm of the cell. Okay, can you see it here? So this is how your nucleus is present. It looks as if the Maggie is lying in the middle of the water. So just like that. Okay, everyone? I hope there is no doubt if this concept is clear to everyone. Okay. Now coming to the cell envelope. Now first cell organelle that we have to talk about is the cell envelope. Cell envelope, basically it is a chemically complex protective covering. So there is a covering around the prokaryotic cell, and that protective covering is called as the cell envelope. And this cell envelope is made up of 3 layers. Okay, so we can say the cell envelope consists of 3 layers. The outermost layer is called as a glycocalyx, middle layer is cell wall, and the innermost layer is the plasma membrane. Okay everyone, the innermost layer is the plasma membrane. And you can see the structure here. This is here, your cell envelope will be there, and it is composed of 3 layers. Coming to the first layer, which is called as glycocalyx. Now before we go further, let's look at the diagram, dear students. You see, this is this red portion is your glycocalyx. The second yellow, as you can see, it is bounded with yellow. This is your cell wall, and the innermost layer is called the plasma membrane. Okay, and these 3 are together referred to as cell envelope. They are together referred to as cell envelope. Okay everyone, it is referred to as cell envelope. So as I told you, glycocalyx, it is the outermost layer. Its composition and its thickness varies from bacteria. It is different in different bacteria. It may be like a slimy layer in case, or you can say slimy layer means loose. Okay, and then, or it can be a capsule like that, like it is very thick and tough. So you can say the glycocalyx layer, it can be a loose layer, which is there. You can say it can be present in the form of a loose layer, or it can be present in the form of a tough layer. The second layer that we have is a cell wall, that is the middle layer. Cell wall, it is basically called as the middle layer, and it is present in all prokaryotes. Okay everyone, this is present in all prokaryotes, and this gives shape to the cell, and it also provides the structural support, and that is why the bacteria, they do not burst, because they contain the cell wall. So cell wall gives them shape, as well as it provides them structural support, so that the bacteria, they do not burst or they do not collapse. Okay. Then is the innermost layer, which is called as your plasma membrane. Okay, this is the innermost layer, and this layer is semi-permeable. I hope you understand this word. Semi-permeable or selectively permeable, rather I should use. It is selectively permeable. Okay, instead of semi-permeable, I should use the correct word, that it is selectively permeable. Selectively permeable means that it only allows the selected substances to go in and out. Okay, it does not allow every substance to go in and out. It only allows you can say selected substances to move in and out of the cell. And you can say the prokaryotes, they are quite similar to eukaryotes in structure. Okay, and this membrane is, this your plasma membrane, it is structurally similar to the eukaryotes, the plasma membrane which is present in the eukaryotes. Now, depending upon the type of the cell envelope and the response to the Gram staining. Dear student, there was a scientist named as Christian Gram, and he developed a technique which is called as Gram staining technique. Okay, this technique is called as Gram staining procedure or Gram staining technique or the method. Now this basically, if you look at the second picture, just look into this picture. The bacteria that take up the stain, they turn bluish, dark bluish. While the bacteria, the E. coli, that does not take up this stain, they are referred to as Gram negative, and they appear pink. So the bacteria, the organisms, okay, those which take up the stain, they are referred to as Gram positive. Okay, because they absorb the Gram stain. So the bacteria or the cells that take up the Gram stain, they are referred to as Gram positive, while the organisms that do not take up the stain, they are referred to as gram-negative bacteria. So we can say on the basis of the gram stain, we can classify the bacteria into two types, gram-positive bacteria and gram-negative bacteria. Coming to the second part, that is called mesosome and chromatophores. Now there is a special structure which is referred to as mesosome, okay, and it is formed by infoldings of the plasma membrane. Okay, dear students, as you can see, this is a cell. This outermost layer is your plasma membrane. The cell is covered by a plasma membrane. Okay, I hope this is clear. So this plasma membrane, see, it has folded itself on the inner surface. So this structure which is formed is referred to as mesosome. So mesosomes, they are formed by the infoldings or the extension of the plasma membrane inside the cells. Now these extensions, they will form the vesicles, they may form the tubules, and they may form the lamellae, and they help in cell wall formation. So mesosome जो है वो आपका cell wall formation में help करता है, okay? And mesosome can be in the form of the vesicles, tubules, or in the lamina. Clear? Now this particular structure, dear students, it also helps in respiration. It also helps in secretion, and very important, it increases the surface area of the plasma membrane. Okay, it basically increases the surface of the plasma membrane, so large number of enzymes can act. Okay, so this basically increases the surface area. It participates in respiration, it participates in secretion process as well. So as I told you, we can list the functions of the mesosome. They help in the cell wall formation. Then they also help in DNA replication. Then it helps in the distribution of chromosomes to the daughter cells. They help in respiration and secretion processes. And most important, as I told you, they increase the surface area of the plasma membrane so that larger enzymes can act upon it. Now coming to the second structure, which is called as chromatophores. Okay, they are referred to as chromatophores. Chromatophores, they are also the membranous infoldings in some prokaryotes. Okay, these are the foldings which are present in the prokaryotes. Not always, but in some. So in some organisms they are present, in others they may be absent. Okay, like for example in cyanobacteria. So cyanobacteria, they contain the infoldings of the membrane, and those infoldings, they are referred to as chromatophores, and they contain the pigments. As you can see in the picture, the chromatophores. Okay, you can see the chromatophores here. Can you see? Okay, these all structures that you can see along it, they are referred to as chromatophores. Okay, everyone, they are referred to as chromatophores. Okay, and these are the extensions of the membrane, and they are only present in few, you can say, prokaryotic cells. For example, your cyanobacteria, they are not present in all of them. Okay, and they contain the pigments. Coming to the third, you can say, structure which is present in your prokaryotic cell, that is your nucleoid. Nucleoid means the undeveloped nucleus. As I told you here, then you can say your nucleate matter is lying in the cytoplasm itself. It is not covered by a nucleus membrane. So we call this structure as a nucleoid. Okay. So it is formed of non-membranous circular genomic DNA. And mostly there is only single chromosome which is present. Okay, there is only single chromosome which is present, and it is not covered by the membrane, and it is naked. You can see with your naked eyes. Now many bacteria have circular DNA as well. Like here you can see only the nucleoid structure, but in addition to nucleoid, certain bacteria, like let's talk about like this. So here you will have the nucleoid structure, and in addition to this there is some circular DNA which is present, and this circular DNA is referred to as the plasmid. Now this plasmid, the presence of plasmid, it gives some unique phenotypic characters, like it provides resistance to antibiotics in bacteria. So it makes the bacteria survive in a medium which contains antibiotics. Flagella. See, you look into this. These structures, as you can see here, these thread-like structures are visible to you in the, they are referred to as flagella. So flagella are thin filamentous extensions from the cell wall of the bacteria, and they help in locomotion. They help in motion of the bacteria. Their number and arrangement is different in different bacteria. Okay, their number and arrangement is different in different bacteria. Like your bacterium flagellum can be divided, you can say it can have three parts: the filament, hook, and the basal body. We can say that it can be divided into three parts. The flagellum consists of three parts: filament, hook, and the basal body. Now out of this, the filament is the longest portion, and it extends from the cell surface to the outside. So this, as you can see, this complete is your, जो आपको यहाँ पर स्ट्रक्चर नज़र आ रहा है, ये आपका पूरा फिलामेंट है जो सेल वॉल से एक्सटेंड करता है बाहर की तरफ. ठीक है. So flagella basically, they vary in number, they help in motion of the bacteria, okay, and they consist of three parts: filament, hook, and the basal body. Now apart from the flagella, there are two more structures, okay, which are present in the bacteria, but they do not play any role in the motility. Means they do not provide any mobility to the bacteria. That is, first is pili. Okay, pili is basically the plural. Pilus is a singular. So these are elongated tubular structures which are made up of a special protein, that is pyline. तो ये जो pili structures हैं, ये pyline protein से बने होते हैं. Okay. Other than this, there is a fimbriae. ये छोटे छोटे bristles होते हैं. These are the fiber-like bristles that sprout out from the cell. सेल के अंदर से कुछ ब्रिसल्स लाइक स्ट्रक्चर्स निकल आते हैं जिनको हम फिम्ब्रिए कहते हैं. एंड इन सम बैक्टीरियाज दे हेल्प इन अटैचिंग द बैक्टीरिया टू द रॉक्स. तो ये जो है आप कह सकते हैं कि फिम्ब्रिया बेसिकली हेल्प इन अटैचिंग द बैक्टीरिया टू द रॉक्स, एंड दस ऑल्सो you can say that it also helps the bacteria to bind to the host tissues. It can be rocks or it can be a living organism. So they help in binding. While pili, they are made up of special proteins which are called pyline. No specific structure so far, function so far we know, but they do not provide any function in motility. Next is ribosomes. In prokaryotes, the ribosomes, they are associated with the plasma membrane of the cell. Okay, so ribosomes, they are associated with the plasma membrane of the cell, and they are about 15 nanometers to 20 nanometers in size. So their size is approximately 15 to 20 nanometers. And the ribosome in case of prokaryotes is made up of two units, 30S and 50S. The smallest unit is the 30S, and the large unit is 50S. Together they bind with each other, okay, and they form a 70S ribosome. See, 50 plus 30 is 80, but it's not 80S ribosome basically, dear students. It is 70S ribosome, which is formed with the association of 50S and 30S units. Now these ribosomes, you know what is the function of ribosomes? They help in protein synthesis. Ribosomes, they help in protein synthesis. Okay, they help in protein synthesis. Okay. So as I told you, ribosomes, the larger unit and the smaller unit, they will club together and they will form the functional ribosome. Now this functional ribosome, it will bind with the mRNA. Okay, it will bind with the mRNA and it will help in synthesis of a polysome or polyribosome. ठीक है, ये एक स्ट्रक्चर बनाएगा जिसको हम कहेंगे पॉलीराइबोसोम्स और पॉलीजोम, एंड दिस विल हेल्प इन ट्रांसलेटिंग द mRNA इनटू द प्रोटीन्स. सो mRNA से प्रोटीन बनाने का जो प्रोसेस है उसमें आपके राइबोसोम्स हेल्प करते हैं. सो राइबोसोम्स व्हेन दे आर क्लब्ड टुगेदर विद mRNA दे विल फॉर्म द पॉलीजोम. So we can say ribosomes, they help in protein synthesis, and that is called as translation. Ribosomes, they will attach with the mRNA and they will form a chain which is called polyribosome or polysome, and this ribosome will help in converting the information which is present in mRNA into proteins. Then is the inclusion bodies. Inclusion bodies, okay everyone, inclusion bodies, they are basically the reserve materials. They are the actually the bodies that contain reserve food material in case of prokaryotes. Okay, like as you can see in the cytoplasm, if you can see, these are your inclusion bodies. Can you see these structures? These are inclusion bodies, and they store the reserve food material in case of prokaryotic cells. Like for example, you can have phosphate granules, you can have synophysin granules, glycogen granules, gas granules, etc. Okay, so they are basically the granules that store the food material. So you can say glycogen granules, they will be storing the glycogen. Gas granules, they will store the gas. And these gas vacuoles or granules, they are basically found in blue-green algae, the purple and the green bacteria. Okay, so inclusion bodies, they are present in the cytoplasm. They store the reserve food material. Okay, and we can have different types of inclusion bodies depending upon what they are storing. Like as you can have phosphate granules, so they will be storing the phosphate. And then you can have glycogen granules, they will store the glycogen. Gas vacuoles, they will store the gases, right? I hope there is no doubt regarding this topic, and everybody has understood the concept of prokaryotic cells very well. Even if there is doubt, you can contact me personally, or you can send your queries to me on my personal number. So for today's homework is to make notes of this topic, and you got to read the page numbers 125 to 129. Very carefully you will read these pages, you will go through these pages, you will highlight the questions, and you will understand the words which are highlighted in black. So, and even then if there is any doubt, any query, anything you feel that you need to discuss with me, you can ask me, you can send your queries personally to me. Okay everyone? So that's all for today. Bye everyone.